Hey, what's up guys? Tech Pastry here, back with another YouTube video. I don't know if you've noticed, but I upgraded my lighting. So I've been on sort of a hiatus for the last 2 weeks, sort of trying to figure out ways and putting together new video ideas for you guys. But I'm back, and I'm coming back with another video about how to get an internship in computer science. This has been like a super popular request, and I put together a few bullet points from my experience as a undergrad computer engineering or computer science student, and how I got my first internship, tips that I did to make my resume more appealing, as well as the interview process and sort of like getting the final offer as well. And lastly, I'm going to leave some tips on things that I did and things I wish I did to make more of my internships in college. So if you don't know me, I'm Tech Pastry. I'm a software engineer living in New York. I currently work at one of the FAANG companies, and I have worked at another FAANG company in the past. My channel is mostly about tech, life as a software engineer, some interview questions, as well as resume reviews, personal finance, life, etc. When I was in college, I did 2 major internships, one at VMware as a sophomore and one at Uber as a junior. And I'm going to share a couple tips and tricks on how I got those first internships and what I did in order to make my resume appealing as a sophomore undergrad student, what kind of resources I went to on my college campus in order to get those internships, as well as the interview process and questions that I got. I won't give the exact question, but similar types of questions and general principles of what I got during my software engineering internship interviews. And this video is for you if you are a computer science student in your sophomore or junior year that are targeting key companies like the FAANG companies, which cover Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google, and Netflix, or some quant firms like maybe Citadel, Jump Trading, Hudson River Trading, Optiver, Jane Street, or even like startups like Pinterest, Uber, Lyft, Scale AI, and so on and so forth. So if you fall in that list, make sure you keep on watching, because I'm going to cover everything that you'll need to get an internship this summer. So first of all, we should talk about why I get an internship in CS. If you're trying to become a software engineer, getting an internship is probably the easiest way you will have to get into these big companies. You can always interview later, but getting your first foot in the door in the industry, especially at a large shop that is well known, is going to be such a leg up in your career, and it's going to set you up for the rest of your life, because not only do these large companies offer large base pay, large bonuses, equity, good engineering practice, name recognition, but also you're going to be surrounded by like-minded peers that are also operating at a high level. You're going to be building networks, as well as making connections with managers, other engineers that will help you later on in your life. There have been so many cases where I get referrals to other companies because I worked with a manager that's moved to that company, and that's how I've gotten interviews and job offers at FAANGs. So in software engineering internships in school, typically have 2 seasons, one in fall and one in spring. Typically the fall recruiting season happens around 3 weeks after school starts, based on the first career fair or the first start date of one of the target schools. And the target schools could be Stanford, Berkeley, MIT, Caltech, UIUC, Michigan, Georgia Tech, Cornell, and I'm sure there's some that I am not listing, but there is a huge amount of target schools, and typically the large companies want to recruit out of those schools. So when those schools start school, then that's typically when the recruiting season starts. But even in Silicon Valley, one of the most competitive places for technical talent, I've been recruited in the middle of summer. For example, during my internship at VMware, I had an offer from Uber before I even finished my VMware internship. And the recruiting season started for that around midsummer. There are typically a set number of spots per company For example, Amazon opens around 15,000 spots every summer. Google opens around 3.5K spots every summer. And smaller companies, when I was at Uber, there were only 300 spots for the summer. So typically, the smaller the company, the more competitive they are, as well as other factors such as the intern package and the overall prestige of the company. There would be differing competition per company. So internships are a competitive job posting. If you can secure one, it sets you up and puts a great mark on your resume to get the next internship. The first one is always the hardest. After you get your first one, you'll get a lot more callbacks, a lot more interviews, because once you get that first initial work experience, then more people will just be interested in working with you. So let's talk about pay. Pay very much depends on the company you work for, and intern packages are very standardized. Usually when you get an offer, it's very hard to negotiate up unless you have a competing offer. I've seen people with competing offers able to negotiate their intern salary up, but this is an exception, not the rule. Let's look at a couple hard numbers. The higher end of the intern salaries, like Hudson River Trading, might pay $17,000 a month for an intern, whereas some of the FANG companies will also pay very competitively. For example, Google might pay around $12K, which includes housing. So you'll have free housing when you work there, and they'll put you in corporate suites or either give you a rent stipend in order for you to find your own apartment or Airbnb for the summer. And other FANG companies like Facebook, Amazon might pay something similar. And a couple hard data points, and given this was maybe 5-6 years ago, back when tech wasn't as popular as it is today, my Uber salary for an intern was $43 an hour and also included overtime. They also gave me a housing stipend of around $2,000 per month. That also added to my total compensation for the summer. So I averaged around $48, which included the housing stipend. My first internship at VMware paid around $37.5 an hour. And this was in the heart of Palo Alto, where they provided free housing, which was honestly a huge plus. That saved a lot of money and let me keep a lot of my paycheck that I used to spend for school the next year. Not to mention the pay, but typically interns also are enrolled in benefits. So you might have access to 401k and health insurance. For example, when I worked at Uber, I was able to take advantage of their vision plan. I got contacts and glasses on their insurance during the summer. So that is a nice thing to have. If the company you work for has good insurance, you can always do some sort of procedure or get a checkup during the summer that you work there. So how do you apply? Typically, an internship is just like any other job. You have to prepare a resume, which I'll put another video on more resume reviews or how to prep for an internship resume. After that, you message recruiters or you meet recruiters at the career fair. When I got my first internship, I actually took advantage of a career fair on my campus as well as a career center. My career center at my school posts job postings from large recruiters, and it's only open to people that go to my school. So I was able to apply for my first internship at VMware through the job board, and that actually put me in a smaller pool. They got me an interview, and that interview set me up with my first job. Career fairs are a great way to network. Typically, they have a lot more traffic because a lot of people come out to them. So for the popular companies, lines will go around the door, but it's also a good opportunity to network with smaller companies that don't have much of a line. Usually career fairs are good for getting your first job since you'll be able to talk to the recruiter directly and you'll be able to make a good impression. Once you have a career fair, an internship under your belt, then it's much easier to cold apply online, because if you have a big name brand on your resume, you'll get shortlisted and then typically get reached out for an interview. Once I had my VMware internship on my resume, I got callbacks from Facebook, Microsoft, Google was hard to crack in college. Amazon emailed me a few times. So once I had that first name, it was so easy to get interviews at all of the big names. So let's talk about the interview process. The interview process is a little bit easier for internships. My first internship interview was 2 coding parts back to back. They asked me each one question, and the topics were signal processing as well as data structures. My second internship, which was at Uber, I got questions that were similar to data structures, algorithms, but I only had 1 phone screen and a 3-round onsite. This is actually a lot easier than doing a regular entry-level software engineering interview because an onsite can be 4 sections. And there will be a lot more scrutiny for an onsite for a full-time software engineer versus an intern, because an intern in a lot of ways is a 3-month interview process. And if the interview doesn't work out, then they can always just choose to not hire the intern. Whereas once a full-timer is hired, it's a lot harder to get rid of them, or if they don't meet performance standards. So companies actually prefer to hire interns over taking a full-time entry-level software engineer for these big companies. Plus, interns are typically coming out of either really well-known colleges or have had a lot of experience already. So they are sort of a investment for these companies. Hopefully they will develop into very highly productive full-time engineers, but that's sort of like the gamble that they're willing to take. So the onsite is typically around 2 coding, maybe 1 behavioral, and every company is different. Some companies might do all coding, some companies might do more behavioral than others, but you'll probably expect 1 behavioral question or 1 behavioral interview, and the rest are going to be coding. So we already talked about offers, but I'm going to expand a little bit more on this. Depending on the company, some companies might offer a salary, some companies might offer an hourly rate. It really depends on the company. For example, my first internship, they offered me an hourly rate that I had to log my hours. But then my second internship, they offered me an hourly rate, but they also let me go overtime, which was really nice because I worked a little bit extra and I was able to get paid extra. It very much depends on the company, and typically these salaries are non-negotiable, meaning they won't go up unless you really have very strong competing offers. So how do you make the most of it? The first step is just to network like crazy. You're in a cohort of people all around the same age as you, all living in a new place for the first time. This is the best time to grow your network. Add those people on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, go on fun trips with them, especially if you're living in like New York or the California Bay Area. There's so many great places to go around. You can rent a car for the weekend and go hiking. You can explore new bars in the city, go to new restaurants, start like a club. This is like the best time to network with people because your cohort will come from all around the United States, maybe even the world, from prestigious universities that are very rigorous to get into, and also they will most likely do very cool things afterwards. A lot of my intern cohort ended up going on to landing engineering, maybe senior engineering roles at large companies. Some even brought companies to IPO, some launched companies, and it's so cool seeing them and just seeing their progress. And it really is sort of like a networking opportunity where these people will be the people that are making impact in the field later on in your career. In addition to that, network with the people that are higher up in the company. Nobody's going to turn down an invitation to have a coffee chat with an intern. You can request coffee chats with people that are 3 or 4 levels above you, maybe even like the VP, if you just send a nice message saying like, hey, I want to get to know more and I'm an intern for the summer. If you send a nice message, people are very respectful and eager to help an intern sort of learn more and get started on their career. They're willing to pass on their knowledge, and it's much harder to do this as a full-time employee. a lot of the people higher up want to make a good impact and impression on the interns, so make sure you network with people, send friendly emails, and just invite people to meetings, because you are not a full-time engineer yet. You're more of going through a trial period, and networking with people is a great way to sort of make a bigger impression on the company through the people, and also enrich your own network and learn from their experiences. And lastly, of course, work hard. The internship is really just a 3-month interview. You'll typically get an intern project, and if you finish it, then you get a full-time offer. If you don't finish it, then there's a chance you might not get it. The conversion rate from an internship to a full-time, depending on the company, can be anything between 33 to 66%. So in the worst case, 1 in 3 interns become a full-time employee, and the best case, 2 out of every 3 interns become a full-time employee. So what happens after the internship? So you finished working, you did a really good job, you delivered your project, and you did a presentation in front of your entire team, maybe in front of the entire organization. You get called by a recruiter, and depending on that, you might get a return offer or you might not. So typically, return offers are given to the interns that perform the best, and there might be a limited quantity. It really depends per company. I'm not totally sure the internship you're going for, but there will be a certain number of return offers ready to be given. And if you get a return offer, then you have an opportunity to come back to the company and go back to your senior year with a job offer in hand. They'll start the starting date after you finish school and graduate, and once you graduate, you'll take a summer off and join the company afterwards. So once you have that coveted return offer, you can go back and either wait until you did a few more interviews and you're 100% sure the company you interned for is where you want to go back, or you can sign in immediately and not have to worry about that, have a fun senior year, get senioritis, or maybe study hard and finish off with a 4.0. Who knows? I think that once you have that return offer, it just takes a huge load off your shoulders and really gives you a chance to enjoy your senior year. And that's it. If you watched this video till now, I hope you learned a little bit about how to secure a software engineering internship as a CS student. And also, I hope you learned a little bit more about the process of being an intern, what an internship really helps you with in your career, and how you can really crush it during the interview process. So if you like this video, hit subscribe, hit like, it feeds the algorithm, yada yada yada, and I hope to see you guys again in one of my next videos. Peace out, guys.